Hi, I'm Taylor, and I'm 29 years old. I have my own house, which I'm really grateful for, especially with how things are with money in America right now. But my husband doesn't see it the same way. He's often negative and proud, especially because I have a better job than him. He's working a low-paying job at the moment and feels pretty frustrated about it. His mom doesn't help either. She keeps putting him down, comparing him to other people, and saying he should be more successful like them. She'll say things like, "Why don't we get a better job? Look at Ricky, he's doing so well. He's becoming the CEO of his company, and you're just a manager at the local grocery store. It's embarrassing." Their conversations usually went like this, and it really got to my husband. It started to hurt his pride a lot. Eventually, he even fibbed and said he owned the house instead of me. "Mom, you don't have to say those things. It's not nice. I'll say what I want. He needs to do better. Mom, please stop." He felt so bad about it that he pretended he bought the house himself. "Yeah, Mom, the house is in my name. I used my money to buy it. I'm a homeowner now." "Wow, that's great. So you'll get a better job now, right?" "It's not that simple, I think. I'm just disappointed you spent so much time in university. You could have gotten a good job like your brother. How will you manage this big house with your low-paying job?" "Taylor will help, Mom." "Fantastic. Now, as a grown man, you're depending on your wife to earn money and take care of the house. It's disgusting." Even though Gordon was lying about owning the house, I let him have that little victory so his mom would respect him more. But I realize now it was a big mistake. He's used it as an excuse to be rude and disrespectful towards me. Trying to boost his ego and show off to his mom, he'd become extra aggressive and bossy whenever she was around. He'd act like he was in charge, when really it was me who made our nice life possible in our beautiful house. As his wife, I was kind and understanding, so I went along with his dominant behavior to avoid his mother making him feel bad about himself. But one day, things took a turn for the worse. "Taylor, come downstairs now. My mom's here and she wants food and a foot massage." I hurried downstairs to find my mother-in-law and Gordon chatting. "Don't just stand there. Do what you're told." "Of course, dear. It's good to see you're finally acting like a man. I'm surprised Taylor puts up with it, considering she's the breadwinner." "Yes, but I'm the one who owns the house, so she has to respect me." I'd always roll my eyes internally when he said this. It bothered me how entitled he acted, but I knew it was helping him rebuild his relationship with his mother. Gordon used to be really close with her, but ever since he dropped out of college for a get-rich-quick scheme that turned out to be a scam, the relationship suffered. She warned him against it, but he was too stubborn. When it failed, he was broke and too discouraged to go back to school. Since then, he's been trying to mend things with his mother, but she often ignores him and praises his more successful brother, Ricky. Oh, I forgot to mention, Ricky will be joining us for dinner. Come on, Taylor, let's go make some food. He must be tired after working all day at that big company. Fine. Mariana would often complain to me about how useless her son was whenever she had the chance. Sometimes Gordon overheard these talks. She didn't try to hide her gossiping, which just made her more angry and controlling to show that she was in charge of her household. You might be wondering why I put up with all of this for 8 months, but my patience wore thin when this happened. Mariana and I were in the kitchen, and she was once again talking about how disappointed she was in her son. "It's just so sad having a loser for a son." "Yeah, I'm sure it is. Honestly, you're stronger than me. I might have left him a long time ago if I were you." I never knew how to respond in these moments. I couldn't agree with her, but I also couldn't disagree, so I'd say something vague. A couple of hours passed and Ricky arrived, greeted by a bitter Gordon. Ricky came into the kitchen to say hello. "Hey, Taylor. Hey, Mom." "Oh, my dear, welcome. You've arrived just in time. Let's set the table. We need to talk to Gordon soon because this has gone too far." "Talk to Gordon about what?" "Oh dear, you'll find out soon. Our visit isn't just a friendly one. We're here to discuss something important with you both." I was confused and a little nervous. What could they want to talk about? After setting the table and saying grace, Mariana decided to reveal her true reason for coming over that day. "I have something to say. Ricky and I have been discussing this for a while now, and I think it's time we brought it up with you, Gordon." Yeah," Ricky started. "You know, your job right now isn't really enough to sustain." "Don't sugarcoat it, Ricky. Gordon, what Ricky means is that your job isn't good enough for you to keep this house. Both Gordon and I were shocked. We'd been found out. You can't keep this house, Mariana continued. Well, not under your name, at least. Owning a house is a big responsibility, and we don't want to see you struggle to pay for it. So I think it's best if your older brother takes over the ownership. It'll save you from any future problems. What? Gordon and I exclaimed at the same time. I'm sorry, but that's not happening, Gordon said firmly. Why not? We're trying to help you, Gordy. I'm not a kid anymore, Mom. I can handle owning a house. I don't need you treating me like some charity case. Oh, Gordon, don't be stubborn. Just go get the title deed. Let's discuss it and go over some details. Mariana and Ricky didn't know that I was the real owner of the house. If they saw the title deed, it would cause chaos, and Gordon would be ostracized from his family. But I realized that the lie couldn't last much longer. I exchanged a glance with Gordon. Actually, Mariana, Ricky, thanks for bringing this up. It's time we tell you the truth about everything. What truth? What's going on? Ricky asked. Well, you see, we've been keeping something from you for a while now. Oh yes, the truth is we can't find the title deed, Gordon suddenly blurted out. I was taken aback by Gordon's statement. I had hoped he would come clean about our secret, but instead he chose to hide behind a lie. We must have misplaced it when we were moving stuff around in the attic. You know how cluttered it is up there with all our junk. It's probably somewhere in the mess. Come on, Gordon. You should know better than to lose such important documents, Ricky scolded. Well, what do you expect from your little brother? He's pretty clueless. How he even managed to buy a house is beyond me, Mariana added. I'll search for it. Give me a couple of days to sort everything out. Fine, but this complicates things. We wanted to get this sorted quickly, but okay. Find the papers and let us know as soon as you do, all right? Okay. While everyone else chatted and ate, I stayed silent. I couldn't believe Gordon's choice. This was his chance to be honest, but instead he chose to add another lie. As they say, lies only make things worse the longer you keep them. After Mariana and Ricky left, I decided to confront Gordon about his decision. Seriously, Gordon. What? I had to do it. There was no other option. There's always a choice, Gordon. You've been living this life for so long. The truth will come out eventually. I don't mean you lecturing me, Taylor. I'm a grown man. Then act like it. Take responsibility for your actions. That's more manly than hiding behind a lie. You know what, Taylor? Stop nagging me. You act like you're the queen of everything, bossing me around. But guess what? You're nothing without me. Excuse me? Whose name is on the title deed? Because it's not yours. Well, maybe it should be. I can't believe you just said that to me. How dare you? Listen, you ungrateful, spoiled brat. I'm the man of this house, and I'll do what I want. I don't care if your name is on the title deed. This is my house, and I make the rules. Now, I'm going to get the title deed and change it to my name. It'll take about 5 to 6 weeks. I'll just tell Mom it took longer than expected. Now go get the deed right now. I was speechless. Gordon had never spoken to me like that in our 4 years of marriage. His frustration and need for approval from his mother had led him to lash out at me. But that didn't excuse his behavior. Now I'm someone who believes in getting even. Some call me petty, but I don't care. Eye for an eye. However, I knew that retaliating wouldn't solve anything. It would just escalate into a shouting match with even harsher words exchanged. So instead, I kept my cool and followed his orders. But in my mind, I was brewing a plan to teach him a lesson. I went to our home office and found the deed easily, being the responsible homeowner that I am. Instead of handing it over, I made a photocopy. Of course, it didn't look authentic, just a black and white version without the proper stamps and details. But I had a plan. I slipped the photocopy into Gordon's work bag and hid the real deed in my secret safe that he didn't know about. By the way, I put the deed in your work bag for tomorrow. I know you have to leave early, so I took care of it for you. You'll find it in there. Great. I'll need to contact the title company to start the process. The next day, while I was at work, I got a call from Gordon. Hey, babe. You put a photocopy of the title deed in my bag. I need the real one for the process. Oh, did I? My mistake. The guy here won't accept the photocopy, and since your name is on the deed, I think you should be involved in the process too. Unlike you, some of us have demanding jobs that require our full attention. Let's schedule a proper meeting to discuss this. What did you just say to me? Do you need my help or not? I knew I'd angered him, but I didn't care. I wasn't going to let him off the hook easily. He needed to learn a lesson. I was done being accommodating, so I allowed myself to be a little petty and throw some jabs. Especially now, when he needed my help more than ever. Yes, I need your help. Fine, I'll handle everything. Okay, bye. Things were getting tense between Gordon and me because I wasn't putting up with his rude behavior anymore. I was going to make sure he learned his lesson. A week passed and Gordon was on a mission to find that title deed. He searched every nook and cranny of the office, even though he knew it wasn't there. He even braved the cluttered attic, despite knowing it was unlikely to be there. But desperate times call for desperate measures, right? Gordon spent the next week tirelessly searching that attic, even taking time off work to do so. Part of me felt guilty watching him search day after day in vain. But then I remembered all the hurtful things he'd said to me, and I didn't feel as sorry for him anymore. Gordon ignored calls from my mother-in-law and avoided Ricky, knowing he'd missed his deadline by a long shot. Another week passed, and one evening Mariana and Ricky both called me. Hello, dear. How are you? I'm good, thanks. I hope you two are doing well too. Not really, dear. We've been trying to reach Gordon, but he's been ignoring our calls about the title deed. Oh, I know. He's been dodging your calls. Is everything all right? No, actually, he still hasn't found it. Oh dear, that's not good. Gordon needs to pull himself together. I've been telling him the same thing, but he's not listening to me. See, Ricky, even Taylor has had enough. That's it, we'll come over tomorrow to help him search for the deed. Tell Gordon to take the day off. It's not like he's doing anything important anyway. Mom, I really think we should give him more time. I've waited long enough. Do you know how long these things take? The sooner we get it sorted, the better. Taylor, you make sure Gordon is ready for a long day of searching because I'm tired of waiting. Got it, Mom. But I didn't tell him. I wanted Gordon to face the music. He was already planning to take another day off work to rest, but instead he was greeted by an angry mother and brother. So, you're sleeping instead of finding what needs to be found. Unbelievable. It's not a good look, bro. We took time off to help you, and you're just sleeping. What? What's happening? We told Taylor we'd be coming to help, but it seems like you didn't want us to. No. Taylor didn't say anything to me. Don't blame Taylor. She's been holding things together while you've been MIA. Why weren't you answering our calls? I was just busy. Busy sleeping, it seems. Anyways, get up. We need to start searching. Actually, no, you don't have to search. I have the deed. Everyone turned to look at me. I had been listening in the doorway, and I wasn't going to let Ricky and Mariana waste their time looking for something unnecessary. I decided to come clean and embarrass Gordon for his behavior. Why didn't you tell me they were coming? You know I've been tired from searching. And why didn't you say you have the deed? Because there's something you all need to know. Don't you dare. The truth is, Gordon doesn't own this house. I do. What? What? My name is on the deed, not Gordon's. He's been lying to you all, and I went along with it because I loved him. But his behavior lately made me reconsider, so I decided you all needed to know the truth. Gordon, is this true? No, Mom, she's lying. Lying? Even after being caught? You're unbelievable. I handed the document to Mariana and Ricky. It was the real deed, so they had no reason to doubt it. And there, clear as day, was my name as the owner of the house. You lied to us all this time, Gordon. Really? I don't even know what to say anymore. But I do, Gordon. You're pathetic. Don't try to deny it. You attacked me, saying I'm nothing without you, when in reality, you're the one who needs me. Wakey said that. Yes. That day you proposed changing the name on the deed. He said a lot of hurtful things. You know I didn't mean it, Taylor. Why would you do this to me? You're my wife. Oh, I thought I was ungrateful. I thought I was a spoiled brat. Well, this is how ungrateful, spoiled brats act, sweetie. Mom, let me explain. No, I've heard enough, Gordon. You've disappointed me for the last time. You kept up this facade to impress me? You've already let me down. It wouldn't be surprising if you weren't the true owner of this house. But to lie about it for almost a year and mistreat Taylor so much has left a bad taste in my mouth. I can't even look at you. With that, Mariana got up and left, despite Gordon's desperate attempts to stop her. He begged and pleaded, but she was done. Ricky, please, bro. I swear I wasn't trying to. Shut up. I should punch you right now for wasting mom's time, for wasting my time, and for wasting Taylor's time, effort, love, and energy. This woman endured your foolishness for so long, and you still treated her like garbage. You're crazy. I. Save it. Don't bother contacting us for a while. Mom needs some time. Ricky left too, leaving just Gordon and me in the house. It was my turn to speak my mind. You know what's funny? You call me ungrateful, but you're the one who's truly ungrateful. You're pathetic and your behavior disgusts me. I'm glad your mother and brother finally saw your true colors. And yeah, you might be a man, but you're not the head of this household. If you want to stay here, you better start respecting me and pulling your weight. Otherwise, you can find somewhere else to be the man. Gordon looked distraught. In no time, he managed to ruin 3 important relationships. That's got to be some kind of record. He shouldn't have underestimated me. Why won't you talk to me? I asked. I've decided not to talk to people I don't know. I understand. I'll go away. Living with my husband's parents, they completely ignored me. I thought my mother-in-law might ignore me, but I never expected my father-in-law to treat me the same way. There was a reason why they changed. It was because my sister-in-law, who didn't like me, came back home. Since she returned, our peaceful life together turned upside down. Don't regret it, okay? You think I'll regret leaving? Think again, meanie. I packed my things and left my in-laws' house. Just 3 days after I left, there was chaos in their home. I met my husband at work. He worked in sales and often came to my office, and I was his main contact. As we spent more time together in meetings, I started to like him. He was caring and kind, tall, and not exactly what you'd call handsome, but he had a charming personality. He was well liked, but for some reason, he said he liked me, and we started dating. When we talked, he told me he grew up in a normal family with parents and a sister. I lost my parents when I was young and grew up in an orphanage. It was a hard thing for me, but when we started dating, I told him about my past. He said, "That sounds tough, but don't worry, I'll always be here for you." Not long after, he asked me to marry him. He always wanted our relationship to lead to marriage and quickly introduced me to his parents. When I told them about growing up in the orphanage, they listened carefully and reassured me it wouldn't affect our marriage. It made me really happy. They even said that my background didn't matter in becoming their daughter-in-law, which made me feel really good. But my sister-in-law, who was very close to her brother, seemed surprised, asking, "You grew up in an orphanage?" My husband had to scold her. Looking back, she probably didn't like me from the start. I didn't think much of it then, just assuming we were still getting to know each other. Before we got married, my husband and I talked about moving in with his parents. We thought about it seriously, but I decided to keep my job. My husband was going to be transferred soon, and although I considered quitting to move with him, my career was going well, and I had just been given more responsibilities at work. We discussed it and agreed he would move alone. After our wedding, I wanted to enjoy being newlyweds for a while. I even thought about visiting my husband during long weekends to have a May vacation together. Moving in with my in-laws right after getting married seemed a bit overwhelming, but my husband probably felt more comfortable living with them. Also, he might have wanted us to live together to ease his mom's worries. Since I lost my parents when I was young, I always wished for a family, so living with them didn't seem entirely bad. Besides, my in-laws had always been nice to me, and I grew to like them. It was tough juggling work and my role as a daughter-in-law, but having a family made me happy and complete. One day, my father-in-law came to me with a surprising request. It was the beginning of some trouble in our seemingly happy living arrangement. It happened when my usually anxious mother-in-law, who often acted bossy towards my father-in-law, was out shopping. I was getting ready to do some cleaning on my day off when my father-in-law asked to talk to me. "What's up?" "Well, I don't want my wife to find out, but I need to take time off from work." "Time off?" I asked, surprised. He explained that he'd been having problems with his boss and coworkers, and his health had gotten so bad that he had no choice but to take a break. My mother-in-law is a nice person, but she's always anxious and a bit overworried. Living with them, I notice how she tends to fret a lot, and my father-in-law walked on eggshells around her to avoid upsetting her. He had always been on the thin side, but lately I realized he seemed to have lost some weight. It would have been nice if my mother-in-law genuinely cared about my father-in-law's weight loss. But when he took a sick day because of a cold before, she said, "A cold? Everyone else at work is climbing the career ladder. You're always taking days off for health reasons. That's why you're not getting promoted." Instead of being concerned, she tended to criticize him. He probably tried his best to keep going, no matter how bad he felt. But his health got worse, and he secretly took time off to go to the hospital. He was struggling both mentally and physically. With him leaving work early, often being late, and calling in sick, there was talk about him needing to take a break from work. But he didn't want to upset my mother-in-law at any cost. If he suggested taking time off, she'd likely get really angry. Also, my father-in-law didn't earn much, and he relied on extra pay from working overtime. Taking time off would mean a significant drop in income. If he told my husband, he might tell my mother-in-law, so he came to me, asking if I could help with the bills. If I mentioned taking a break, she might even leave me, he said. Hearing that hurt, I was grateful to my in-laws who had accepted me warmly, regardless of my past in an orphanage. Wanting to support him, I decided to help him out during this tough time. "Okay, I'll send you money every month. Use it for expenses. I'm really sorry. I'll try to get better soon and go back to work. Thank you so much." After that, my father-in-law continued to pretend to go to work while I sent money to his bank account for living expenses. My mother-in-law wasn't very thorough with checking her bank statements, so she didn't notice my transfers. He'd act like he was going to work but instead went to a mental health clinic or went for walks in the peaceful mountains. Over time, he started looking better. I thought he might go back to work soon, but then something unexpected happened. After a fight with her husband, my sister-in-law went back to her parents' home. There's nothing like being back home. I thought I'd lose my mind if I stayed with that stupid husband of mine. I'll be here for a while. Can you make meals for me too? I knew from the start that my sister-in-law didn't like me. At our first family meeting, my husband was upset because she clearly showed her disapproval. During our wedding, she had a sour look the whole time and even told me straight out, "My brother looks great, but he could have married someone prettier." She openly judged me for being raised in an institution, saying it was embarrassing that I didn't have parents at the wedding. However, she got married before us and had already moved out, so I thought I wouldn't have to deal with her much. That's why I thought it would be okay to live with them. If she had still been living at home, I wouldn't have even considered moving in, knowing how she would treat me every day. I thought her stay was just temporary because of her marriage problems and expected her to leave in a few days. Even though she was stern with my father-in-law, my mother-in-law had never been harsh towards me. Even if my sister-in-law made mean comments, I believed my mother-in-law would defend me. But I was wrong. One day, when I came back from work, my mother-in-law's behavior seemed strange. "Is something bothering you?" I asked. She seemed distant, not talking to me like usual. When I asked her what was wrong, she said, "Did you know you've been talking about me behind my back?" "What? I've never said anything bad about you. You've always been kind to me, and I'm really thankful. Why would I say bad things about you? You've been acting like the perfect daughter-in-law, but you've been talking behind my back." "Whatever," she said, leaving the room. In the hallway, my sister-in-law was smirking. "Looks like you're not in her good books anymore. Did your true colors come out? Being from an orphanage, your background really does matter, huh? It's best not to gossip about people, you know." I haven't said anything bad about her. "Oh, the neighbors seem to have heard everything. When I came back home after so long, they told me you've been talking badly about her all the time." "What? Who are these neighbors?" "Well, it's been a while since I got married and moved out, so I kind of forgot their names." "I never said any of that. Stop making things up." "Oh, how disrespectful. Mom, she's calling me a liar and being mean to me," my sister-in-law said as she walked into my mother-in-law's room. After that, my sister-in-law's mean behavior got worse. She claimed I told her to sleep in the hallway and take the last turn for a bath because she's just a guest. She complained to my mother-in-law about every little thing. Every time, I had to explain I hadn't said or done any of it. But my mother-in-law seemed to believe my sister-in-law and be influenced by her. My sister-in-law stayed longer, making me wonder if she planned to stay forever. With all these worries, I went home feeling sad. I'm back. Before, my mother-in-law would warmly say, "Welcome back," but now it was quiet. "I'll start making dinner," I said, stepping into the living room. I was surprised. Usually, my sister-in-law would rush me to make dinner, but now my mother-in-law, father-in-law, and sister-in-law were eating sushi together. Surprised, my sister-in-law said, "Oh, Looks like someone who isn't really family is here. You were planning on having sushi, were you? My mother-in-law kept eating without looking at me, watching TV. If you wanted sushi, you should have told me. I came home right after shopping, I said. Ha! No one said they wanted that, my sister-in-law replied, not even looking at me. Hey, Mom, Dad, I went out with my friends during the day and got some delicious pudding. Let's eat together, my sister-in-law said, ignoring me. They all started eating the pudding. I was tired from work and didn't have the energy to argue, so I went to my room without eating. The next day, my sister-in-law said she was going out with friends and asked me to drive her to the station. I said no because it was a weekday and I had work. Even if we were going in the same direction, it was a different route, and she wanted to leave around noon. I couldn't do it. Just take the day off. It's fine. Your cute little sis-in-law just wants a ride. She hasn't had a chance to relax since she got married, right? Can't you be a bit nicer to her now? She said. With all due respect, didn't you go out with friends last night after getting a late call? It seems like you've been going out almost every day since you came home. I have work. Please take the bus or train. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law were talking quietly, but I was done and left for work. However, that night, the event that made me decide to leave this house happened. I got delayed at work and came home after buying groceries, expecting to face some criticism. It was raining heavily when I left the office, and I got soaked just getting in and out of the car. I wondered what nasty surprise was waiting for me tonight. But when I got home, they were all eating takeout again, just like the day before. No hello, acting like they didn't see me. But I was used to it. I looked out into the courtyard from the hallway and saw something in the middle of the garden. Looking closer, I saw it was my stuff. My designer bag that I bought with my first paycheck, shoes that were a birthday gift from my husband, and even my work computer, all wet. I was shocked, and my sister-in-law said with a smirk, having the strangers' things in the house grossed me out, so I threw them out. Flaunting a designer bag like that, how arrogant of you. Neither of my in-laws said anything about her terrible behavior. Why didn't you stop her? Have I done something to you? Do you really believe her lies about me badmouthing you and bullying her? Aren't you upset with her for what she did? I asked. My mother-in-law avoided my eyes and stayed silent. Why won't you say anything? I asked again. I can't talk to strangers. I can't be friendly with someone who's not family, my mother-in-law replied, not even looking at me. My sister-in-law grinned, waiting for me to respond. Wait, where's my father-in-law? I've been the one supporting him during his time off. I've been the one handling finances in this house. I did it out of gratitude, but shouldn't he stand up for me now? Surely he'd be on my side. Hoping for his support, I looked at him, but he walked past me without a word and went into his room. That was it for me. I see. I've had enough. Oh, are you upset? I'm sorry. Honestly, I never liked you from the start. You know, being from an institution and all. Just don't regret leaving, my sister-in-law said. As if I would. Good riddance, I replied. I packed my things and got ready to leave right away. Only my father-in-law seemed worried because he relied on me financially. But even he didn't try to stop me or speak up for me. I was done with his indifference. Although my husband's work assignment was far away, I just wanted to get out of that house as soon as possible. I quickly got into my car and drove to him. I never talked to my husband about any of this. I doubt my mother-in-law told him about my sister-in-law coming back home. If he knew, he would have reached out to me because he knows I don't get along with her. But my husband never mentioned anything about my sister-in-law in his calls or messages. I never doubted my husband's behavior before, but maybe she's manipulating him, feeding him lies about things. Even now, as I go to him, he might treat me the same way they did. My heart was heavy, feeling suspicious even toward my husband, whom I trust the most. If he's siding with them, maybe divorce is the only option. That's how distressed I felt. When I arrived at his out-of-state apartment, he hadn't returned yet, probably busy since it was the end of the month. As I waited, my husband came in energetically, maybe noticing the lights. What? You're here? You should have told me you were coming. I would have come back sooner. What a pleasant surprise. No, just seeing your face, he said with a big smile. Seeing him happy to see me after all that happened at my in-laws' house, mixed with relief and humiliation, and I couldn't hold back my tears. What's wrong? Did I do something? Seriously, what's going on? He asked, concerned. It seemed my husband had no clue about the treatment I endured at his parents' house. I gathered myself, knowing I needed to explain everything clearly to him. I started recounting everything. How I've been financially helping his father who took medical leave without telling his wife. How his sister returned and was now staying at their parents' house. How she lied about me to his mother, turning her against me. How they treated me like an outsider, ignored me, and even ruined my belongings by leaving them out in the rain. Through tears and pauses, I poured out everything to him. Finally, I made it clear that I couldn't go back to that house ever again. And if he couldn't support me on this, I would want a divorce. My husband apologized for being too focused on work and not checking in on me more often. He regretted his family's behavior towards me. He assured me I didn't have to go back there or even talk to them again. Even if I forgave them someday, he was firm about cutting ties with his parents and sister. He also promised not to provide any more financial aid to his father. That night, I felt a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. The tension I'd been carrying melted away, and I slept peacefully by his side. After leaving my in-laws' house, I never went back. Commuting from my husband's out-of-state place wasn't practical, but I had already talked to my company about working remotely. My job didn't require me to be in the office all the time, and many of my colleagues worked from home too. Although I still had to visit the office a few times a month, some colleagues lived even farther away, so working remotely wasn't a problem. Living with my in-laws and dealing with my sister-in-law's bullying, I hadn't truly experienced married life, but now we could finally live like newlyweds. As I set up my remote workstation, as expected, my sister-in-law contacted me. It turned out that the day after I left their house was my father-in-law's payday. My mother-in-law usually takes out a certain amount and transfers it to their household account, but this time she couldn't. It was only then that she realized I had been helping them financially during my father-in-law's time off. "Hey, why didn't you tell me you were covering the living expenses?" He asked me not to, saying he didn't want you to know, so I kept it to myself. Anyway, we're running out of money for living expenses and there's no one to cook or do laundry. The place is a mess. As his wife, you need to come back and take care of these things and send money quickly. How heartless. I already told you, didn't I? I have no intention of going back to that house or being treated like your maid. Why should I help people who hate me, ruin my things, and treat me like this? Aren't you his wife? Without your help, we can't pay the bills or even shop. That's exactly why I'm saying it. I'm an outsider, so it's none of my business, right? I hung up, ignoring my sister-in-law's complaints. She and my mother-in-law kept bothering me with calls and messages, but I ignored all of them. Even after my husband returned from work, they kept calling persistently. When my husband finally answered, he told them firmly, "I will forgive you for how you treated her, and I'm not sending her back to you. I'm not coming back either. I don't see you as my family anymore. Leave my wife alone, or you'll regret it." Considering my sister-in-law adored her brother and my mother-in-law heavily relied on him, they were probably shocked. A few days later, I got a call from my father-in-law. He said living with my mother-in-law and sister-in-law was getting too hard, and he begged me to continue the financial help. I'm grateful they accepted me when I married, despite growing up in an orphanage, but they didn't support me when I needed it, despite all the financial help I provided. I don't owe them anything. Why should I help those who joined others in ignoring me? I'll never assist you again. And with that, I ended the call. Later on, my persistent mother-in-law and sister-in-law shamelessly showed up at my workplace. Since I was already working remotely and had a bad feeling about them, I had informed my company about the situation. Security was alerted right away. They caused a scene, demanding that the company make me send money back home. When my husband heard about it, he said, "Report them to the police." My colleagues were supportive, saying, "I can't believe you had to live with those people. Focus on your remote work with your husband." As for my in-laws, my father-in-law's health declined under the pressure from my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, and he eventually quit his job. My sister-in-law tried to return to her husband's family, but he refused to take her back. The town quickly learned about her drama at my workplace, causing an uproar at her in-law's place. The real reason for their fight was her affair, and this incident added to their problems, leading to an immediate decision to divorce. Left without a home, my in-laws and sister-in-law moved to a cheap apartment, managing with part-time jobs. As for my husband and me, we're finally enjoying peaceful days, feeling mentally and physically fulfilled. Recently, we found out we're expecting a child, and we couldn't be happier. We're eagerly awaiting the day we meet our baby, cherishing our time together. I divorced my husband because he cheated on me 3 years ago with my younger sister. They sent me an invitation to their wedding. My mother said she would attend, and I felt betrayed by her too. Then she said, "I'll do something fun, you just wait and see." I had a plan to punish the two of them. My name is Emma. My husband and I worked in the same company, and I was his boss. He was a bit unreliable but sincere and friendly. I was responsible for training him and teaching him the job. At first, he was nervous about the new work, but over time, we grew close. "Yuma, are you free on our next day off?" he asked me. I was surprised when he asked me out on a date, but I was excited to see how confident he was outside of work. It made my heart skip a beat. After that, we often went out together. "Emma, will you be my girlfriend?" he asked. 6 months after we officially started dating, he could handle his work all by himself. He had become a valuable part of our company. I felt as happy as if it were my own success when other bosses praised him. He then got promoted and moved to a different department. That's when he proposed to me. "Emma, I want you to marry me." "Yes, I'd be happy to," I replied. My parents and younger sister Kate immediately liked Liam, and our wedding went smoothly. Kate, who was the same age as Liam, got along with him right away. "You're so lucky to marry a kind man like Liam. It seems like people at work have high expectations for him, right?" Kate said. She had just broken up with her boyfriend and was yearning for marriage, always telling me how jealous she was of me. After our wedding, I continued working and taking care of the household, supporting Liam both at work and in our personal lives. At least I thought I was supporting him. About a year after our marriage, he started coming home later and later, and we hardly ever had dinner together. "Hey Liam, we haven't talked about work lately. Is everything okay?" I asked. "Nothing's wrong," he replied tersely. "But you've been coming home late every day. If there's anything I can do to help." "There isn't," he cut me off. He used to share everything with me, but recently he seemed annoyed whenever I brought up work. On his days off, he'd either sleep all day, claiming exhaustion, or head out to clear his mind. Feeling like we weren't spending enough quality time together, I made a suggestion to Liam. "Hey Liam, how about we go to a spa together during the next holiday?" My sister recommended a place to us. I suggested. "A spa, huh?" A spa is a place where we can relax and recharge our bodies and minds, especially from the stresses of work. Seeing Liam busy, I took the initiative to make a hotel reservation that included a spa. A week before our planned spa trip, I asked Liam, "What time should we leave next week for the spa?" "Huh? Oh, is the spa trip next week? I forgot to mention I have a business trip scheduled for that weekend." "What? But you've known of the spa trip for a while now." "Well, it's work, so I can't really change it, can I?" "I see." Liam's department seemed busier than ever with frequent business trips. It seemed like I had no choice but to give up on the spa trip this time too. As usual, Liam left early in the morning for his business trip. If things had gone as planned, we would be on our way to the spa together by now, I thought sadly. While feeling down, I received a phone call. It was from the hotel where I had booked a reservation. Despite sending a cancellation email, they didn't receive it due to an error and called to confirm our arrival time. That's right, I thought. I might as well invite Kate. I called my parents' house, but Kate had been out since morning and wouldn't be back soon. So as a last resort, I decided to invite my mother to the spa. Compared to my sister, I had almost given up on the idea that my mother would be able to go on such short notice, but surprisingly, she agreed. "Really? Is it okay to leave Dad alone?" I asked. "Right now, I'm more worried about you than your father," she replied gently. It seemed she had noticed I'd been feeling down lately and chose to join me on the trip. "Thanks, Mom." "I should be thanking you. I'm happy to be on a trip like this with you." I decided to make the most of the trip with my mother, which was a rare treat. However, as soon as we arrived at the hotel, my mother and I noticed something unusual. "Mom, look at that." At the hotel, we spotted Liam, who was supposed to be away on his business trip. He was walking closely with another woman, both looking happy as they entered the same hotel where we were supposed to stay. As they walked in, the woman turned her face towards us for a brief moment. "You've got to be kidding," I whispered in disbelief. The woman with Liam was my sister Kate. After that moment, shock took over and I have vague memories of how I made it back home. My mother made me some tea, which eventually helped me to start calming down. He had been lying to me, and not just Liam, Kate had deceived me too. After calming down, I called Liam's department. As I suspected, they hadn't been assigning business trips or much overtime for years. When I shared with my mother the days Liam came home late or was away on supposed business trips, it turned out Kate wasn't home on those days either, a detail that struck me. All those times he was late or away on trips, he was meeting Kate, wasn't he? I realized with a surge of anger rather than sadness. With the truth revealed, anger consumed me. Mom, I'm divorcing Liam. I don't want to see Kate, so I won't visit home for a while. She stayed silent but understood my decision. I made all the preparations just before Liam returned. I organized the divorce papers, arranged a new contract for my own house, packed my things, and moved into a temporary apartment before settling into the new place. At our home, I left a letter along with the divorce papers for Liam. I specified that all legal matters, including alimony, would be handled through my lawyer, and I blocked all forms of communication with him. To keep my new address private from Liam and Kate, I didn't inform my parents. Since we worked at the same company, we occasionally crossed paths, but I avoided any interaction with him completely. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Liam quickly agreed to the divorce. He didn't disclose the reason to anyone, but our colleagues seemed to gather it from my behavior and wisely avoided discussing the matter. 3 years went by with me keeping my distance from both Liam and my family. One evening after work, I found my mother waiting for me in my room. "Mom, what's going on?" I asked. "I have something to show you," she replied, holding out an invitation. "It's from Liam and Kate." To my surprise, Kate had left our family home and moved in with Liam. I had considered the possibility they might marry, but I never expected them to actually have a wedding and invite our parents. "So, Mom, are you planning to go?" I asked her. "Of course I am," she answered firmly. I understood that I was the only one who still couldn't forgive them. It seemed they knew this, which was why they had only invited our parents to the wedding. Having distanced myself from Liam and my parents, I felt I had no right to object. Seeing my sadness, my mother smiled reassuringly and said, "Don't worry. I'm not going because I forgive them. Just wait and see." On the day of the wedding, my mother video called me. "I don't want to see their faces," I said, almost hanging up. But I remembered my mother's earlier words and stayed on the call. The screen displayed a slideshow that was being presented. The MC began introducing the slides. This slideshow was created by the bride's mother. She gathered photos from her beloved daughter's birth to the present and created this presentation, the MC announced. I was taken aback that my mother, who wasn't very tech-savvy, had put together such a slideshow. It stirred up a mix of emotions inside me. "Mom, you went through all this effort for Kate." I wondered, feeling a wave of sadness. But then something caught my attention on the screen. Wait, this isn't Kate, I realized. The slideshow began with a photo of myself as a newborn baby. "So cute, there's a resemblance to Kate somehow," the guests commented in a relaxed atmosphere as they watched the slideshow. Kate's expression grew tense. The MC continued, "Since she was young, the bride has always been dedicated to her family. She excelled as a student and successfully entered her desired university. Upon starting her career, she became a highly reliable employee at the company." Kate's friends and colleagues, who recognized moments from her student days and workplace, began to chatter excitedly. "Hey, isn't that a photo from the welcome party at University J? Kate didn't attend such a prestigious university, did she? Wait, isn't that a photo from the company's welcome party? Hold on closer inspection it looks completely different. Wait, if this isn't Kate." Liam also appeared to have noticed. "What the hell is this? This isn't Kate." Unaware of the bride and groom's shocked expressions, the MC continued to progress through the slides. And then she met the groom, Liam, at the company. According to the bride's mother, she initially trained Liam when he joined the company. Eventually, the two got married. Following this introduction were photos from my wedding with Liam. The MC couldn't hide their confusion, sensing something was amiss. They fell silent. It was then that my mother stepped forward and took the microphone. "Allow me to take over from here and explain," she said calmly as she advanced the slides. "Even after marriage, my daughter supported him both personally and professionally. However, as Liam became increasingly busy, he struggled to find time for her. So my daughter planned a spa trip to help him relax. Wait, please. Kate cried desperately, her face pale, trying to halt my mother. Ignoring Kate's attempts, my mother continued with the slides. The next photo showed Liam and Kate entering the spa hotel together, looking very close. Finally, photos of the bride and groom appeared, and both the MC and the guests fell silent. Liam and Kate appeared even more pale. But Liam declined my daughter's spa trip invitation, citing a business trip he had to attend. He claimed it couldn't be helped due to work commitments. My daughter invited me instead, and it was during that trip that we discovered his affair. With those words, the room erupted into chatter and speculation prompted by my mother's revelation. Wait, an affair? And this wedding is for Kate and Liam. Could this wedding be based on their affair? But why would Kate's mother? To address the guests' inquiries, my mother continued in a measured tone. Liam swore to marry my beloved daughter Emma and promised to make her happy. Instead, he betrayed her by having an affair with her own sister, Kate. Mother, please stop. Today is supposed to be my wedding day. Can't you celebrate my happiness? Kate cried, pleading with our mother to halt. Ignoring Kate's pleas, my mother stared coldly at her and replied, I've always wanted you to be happy, but you were the one who shattered that first. Emma always considered not just herself, but the happiness of our family. What about you, Kate? Have you ever considered how much Emma would be hurt by your actions? Well, she always seemed so content. It's not fair. So instead of being happy for your family, you just got jealous, huh? My mother-in-law retorted sharply. Mother-in-law, please stop. She's your precious daughter too, isn't she? Can't you celebrate our new beginning? Why are you doing this? Kate pleaded, clearly distressed. I can't accept someone as dishonest as you into our family. Today's ceremony made that clear to me. If you truly wanted to start anew with Kate, why didn't you invite a single person from your own company? If you're going to have such a grand wedding, shouldn't you apologize to Emma? It's selfish to invite me and her father without making any effort like that. But Emma has been ignoring me all this time, Liam protested. Of course she has, after what you've done. It's only natural, my mother-in-law replied firmly. But that's all in the past now, isn't it? Do you think her wounds will heal in just 3 years? And do you think you can regain our trust in such a short time? Don't be ridiculous. My mother's voice echoed angrily as she and my father left the wedding venue. I could hear her speaking through the phone. Did you see that, Emma? She asked. Yes, I replied. I'm sorry for bringing up painful things. I couldn't stand seeing those two act as if nothing happened, she explained. No, thank you. I feel relieved. It's like you said everything I wanted to say, I admitted. That's right, Emma. You always keep everything to yourself. I thought it was too kind of you not to tell your colleagues the reason for your divorce. Later, my mother sent me a recording of her conversation with Liam from the wedding. Indeed, as she had said, time doesn't easily heal such wounds. Moreover, Liam showed no signs of remorse, dismissing it all as a thing of the past. I decided to enact my revenge by exposing Liam during a company presentation. I signed up quickly when I saw he was scheduled to speak and soon found myself in a conference room. When it was Liam's turn, his supervisor, unaware of his remarriage, commented, Liam, you seem even more motivated today, freshly married. Yes, I'm dedicated to doing my best for my family, he replied cheerfully. He must have known I was present, but that only fueled my determination. I played the recorded audio I received from my mother. The room was startled by the sudden noise from the recording. As they learned about his affair with my sister during our marriage, accusations started flying. Liam, didn't you claim the divorce was due to different values? I couldn't help but burst into laughter. Oh really? Did you say something like that? Well, I can't comprehend a value system that includes cheating with your wife's own sister. I apologize for bringing personal matters into this important internal presentation. As of today, I have decided to resign. I have endured this because I value this company, but I cannot continue working alongside him any longer. Just as I prepared to leave, the board members intervened to halt my departure. Wait a moment, Emma. You're a crucial asset to our company. If anyone should leave, it should be Liam. Huh? But I was considered to have a promising future here. We held high hopes for you in the past, but recently your attire has been less formal and you seem less focused. It appears you have lost the problem-solving abilities you once demonstrated. We don't have the same expectations for you as before." Kate, who had always been inept at housework and had done little even while living with our parents, became a full-time housewife after marrying Liam. Apparently, she left most of the household chores for him to handle. Without my advice to guide him through work challenges, Liam began causing more problems. Word of his affair with his wife's sister spread throughout the company, damaging his reputation. During a board meeting, it was decided that I would stay with the company while Liam would be transferred to a remote location with the expectation of eventual layoff. Kate, who had been enjoying a comfortable life as a housewife on Liam's earnings, quickly abandoned him upon discovering the affair and moved on to another man. Unfortunately for her, the new man turned out to be a typical freeloader burdened with debt. Now she is struggling, working 2 jobs day and night to make ends meet. As they say, what goes around comes around. When you do wrong, it eventually catches up with you. Watching Liam and Kate face the consequences of their actions, I finally felt ready to begin a new chapter in my life. Don't come back here because my girlfriend and I are going to live in this house. On the day my 3-year-old daughter was finally allowed to come home from the hospital after being there for a month, I returned to find my husband living with another woman. I was shocked by his betrayal. Both he and his girlfriend laughed at me, mocking me. To make things worse, my husband had the nerve to call me back to clean up the house, essentially kicking me out. Furious, I talked to some people and made sure my husband and his girlfriend faced consequences for their actions. My name is Emily. I met my husband Michael through my sister's husband, and we lived together with our 3-year-old daughter. We built our house while I was pregnant. We chose everything together, keeping it white inside and out, which I really liked. However, white gets dirty easily, so it needs a lot of cleaning. My husband gets very upset if there is even a small stain. He gets angry when our daughter spills food or dirties the walls. But he never helps clean up. He just complains that the house is dirty. He always points out the tiniest details, and lately I've been getting really fed up with it. Initially, I quit my job and became a full-time housewife after we got married. But when our daughter started kindergarten, I decided to work part-time to save money for the future. Since I started working, I hoped my husband would help more with housework and childcare. However, he thinks that my part-time job is my own choice. So he continues to leave all the household and childcare duties to me, just like before. One day, after sending our daughter to kindergarten, my sister and her husband, who live nearby, were supposed to visit our house. I tried to tidy up as much as possible while helping my daughter get ready in the morning. My husband got annoyed that our daughter was touching things with her messy hands and called me before he left for work, complaining that I wasn't disciplining her properly. Even though he used to adore her when she was born, lately he looks at her as if she is something dirty. I try not to show my feelings in front of our daughter, but his attitude has been really upsetting me. Because my husband complained, I was running late to take my daughter to kindergarten and rushed to get back home to meet my sister and her husband. They had decided to visit just 2 days earlier when they called to see if I had time to meet. I thought they must have something important to talk about, but when I saw them at the front door, I realized it might not be good news. I invited my sister and her husband into the living room, and although they complimented our always clean house, their expressions remained serious. After I served them coffee, my sister's husband finally gathered the courage to speak. Actually, I've heard some not-so-good rumors about Michael. What he said next was unbelievable. Apparently, my husband was having an affair with a coworker. My husband was originally introduced to me by my sister's husband, but they weren't directly acquainted. It was through a mutual friend of theirs, my husband's brother. In other words, my brother-in-law's friend works at the same company as my husband, and he had heard some bad rumors from a colleague. One of the colleagues said that a female coworker had been going around saying she has a boyfriend in the company, and it seemed like she was talking about my husband. Just as my brother-in-law's friend was trying to discreetly find out if the rumors were true, he accidentally stumbled upon my husband and the woman together. They weren't even trying to hide it, openly flirting at the company. His friend was shocked, took a photo of them, and reported it to my brother-in-law. Then my brother-in-law told my sister's husband and showed him the photo. Even though my sister's husband initially couldn't believe it, he had to accept the truth when he saw the photo evidence. He had the photos with him, but I chose not to look at them. My sister and her husband apologized, feeling sorry for introducing me to a man who would cheat. Finding out about my husband's affair left me unsure of what to do. I had never doubted him before my sister's husband shared his story. Most of all, I didn't want to take my daughter's father away from her. But I also couldn't bear the idea of being betrayed. Just as I was about to discuss next steps with my sister and her husband, my phone rang. It was the kindergarten, informing me that my daughter had a high fever and needed to be picked up. It looks like my daughter is sick with a fever, so I needed to go pick her up. When I mentioned this, my sister and her husband, who had come by car, offered to come with me to get my daughter. The three of us went together to pick her up from kindergarten. When we got to the kindergarten, my daughter looked exhausted, and it was clear her illness was more serious than a common cold. Her cheeks appeared swollen, and her teacher mentioned that a classmate had MPS, raising concerns that my daughter might have it too. We hurried to the hospital and informed the reception about our suspicions regarding MPS, given her symptoms. They decided she needed immediate tests because there was a risk of complications. While waiting for the test results, I became anxious and tried calling my husband, but he didn't answer and didn't call me back. Soon after, we learned from the test results that my daughter had MPS and had developed meningitis. She was admitted to the hospital immediately and settled into a room. After getting an explanation about her hospitalization and seeing that she was asleep, I decided to go home to prepare for her stay. My sister and her husband offered to stay with her, so I called a taxi and headed home. Late at night, my husband finally returned my call. He sounded annoyed that I had called him while he was at work and said sharply, "Don't call me during work." I explained our daughter's condition, her fever, hospitalization, and meningitis diagnosis, but he didn't seem to grasp how serious it was. He responded dismissively, "You're with her at the hospital, so don't bother me with every little thing. I'll stay there for a while to be with her." "All right, I'll leave it to you," he said, and then abruptly hung up without expressing any concern for our daughter. As a result, my daughter stayed in the hospital for over a month. During that time, my sister, her husband, my parents, and even my in-laws visited us frequently, worried about her. Surprisingly, my husband never visited once. When it was time for my daughter to be discharged, I asked my husband to pick us up, but he refused, claiming he was too busy with work. I shared this with my sister, and she and her husband offered to drive us home instead. On the day of my daughter's discharge, my sister's husband drove us home. It was a relief to see my daughter back to her normal self after such a long ordeal. However, when we arrived home, I noticed my husband's car in the parking lot, even though he was supposed to be at work. Through the window, I could see the silhouette of a woman inside. My sister and her husband also saw it and were furious, convinced it was his affair partner. I stopped them from barging in, left my sleeping daughter with them in the car, and went inside alone. When I entered the living room, I saw a woman standing close to my husband, just as I had seen from outside the window. When my husband noticed me, he quickly moved away from her. But it was already too late. I had seen everything. "Hey, I'm back. Who's this?" I asked him. Instead of answering, my husband stepped in front of the woman as if to shield her from me. Ignoring my question, he demanded, "Why are you here?" I couldn't believe it. He had forgotten the day our daughter was supposed to come home from the hospital. "I told you today was the day she's getting out of the hospital," I insisted. "No way. You said it was tomorrow. You tricked me into coming back today." My husband's response made it clear he had been so focused on bringing his mistress home that he forgot about our daughter. The woman peeked around my husband, looked at me, and smirked. Then she remarked to him, "Is this your wife?" What a chubby old lady. Hearing that, my husband's attitude hardened as he declared, "Yeah, I've got a young and cute girlfriend now. We decided to live here together, so don't come back." He put his arm around his mistress, as if to emphasize their relationship. I recalled the moment my sister's husband had revealed the affair to me. Despite my initial hesitation about divorce, witnessing my husband's behavior during our daughter's hospitalization shattered any remaining love I have for him. He hadn't visited our daughter even once in the hospital, leaving me to handle everything alone while he took advantage of my absence to spend time with his mistress in our home. I had taken time off from my part-time job and was exhausted from running between the hospital and home. Instead of supporting me during this difficult time, he was flaunting his new relationship and demanding I stay away from our own house. I was forced to clean up after my husband and his mistress, who had the audacity to tell me not to come back home. Exhausted and unable to argue any longer, I quickly packed my things and returned to the car where my sister and her husband were waiting. As I left, my husband and his mistress laughed at me. In the car, I shared what had happened with my sister and her husband. They were ready to confront my husband, but I stopped them. I didn't want my daughter to witness a scene like that, so I asked them to take us to my parents' house instead. We found a warm welcome there, and my daughter gradually improved while staying with my parents. From the time our daughter started crawling, my husband seemed only concerned about cleanliness and rarely interacted with her. His affection for her was fleeting, and she likely doesn't have many memories of him being loving or attentive. She never expressed a desire to see her father or mentioned feeling lonely. I didn't have the energy to confront my husband when I left our house, but I couldn't let things continue like this. Now that my daughter was recovering and could possibly return to kindergarten, I started to consider what to do about my husband. One day, I got a call from him. Curious about what he wanted to say, I answered. He bluntly told me, "The house is dirty. Come back and clean it." Even though he should have been living there with his affair partner, it seemed like neither of them did any housework. My sister had mentioned she was young and likely hadn't lived on her own before, leaving household chores to her family. It was absurd for my husband, who had told me not to return, to now demand that I come back just to clean. His request struck me as incredibly selfish. I declined his request in disbelief. "You should clean your own house, or maybe that girl you're having an affair with can do it," I retorted, hanging up the phone. Despite my husband's persistent calls afterward, I ignored them all. I could only imagine his frustration on the other end, unsure of what would happen next. Later that night, after putting my daughter to bed with the help of my parents, I was folding laundry in the living room when I heard a commotion at the front door. Curious, I went to investigate. As I opened the door, I was shocked to see my husband and his affair partner standing there, completely soaked in red. Behind them, my sister and her husband, along with my in-laws, stood with stern expressions, ensuring they couldn't escape. My husband and his affair partner apologized, saying, "We are truly sorry." However, my sister, her husband, and my in-laws didn't accept their apology. What covered them from head to toe was not blood but tomato juice. After my husband had called me to clean the house, I immediately informed my sister, her husband, and my in-laws about it. My sister and her husband visited my husband first, while my in-laws, who lived nearby, drove over to his place. My sister and her husband tricked my husband into going to the garden, pretending they needed some gardening tools I owned. When he turned his back, they pelted him with tomatoes. Startled, he turned around, only to have more tomatoes thrown at his face. These tomatoes were overripe and very soft, sourced as waste from a farm owned by a relative of my sister's husband. They wouldn't have caused much physical pain upon impact, but their squishy insides splattered easily, which clearly affected my husband, who prized cleanliness. My sister and her husband didn't give him a chance to react and continued throwing tomatoes. The tomatoes not only hit my husband but also splattered against the pristine white walls of the house, causing chaos. As this unfolded, my in-laws arrived on the scene. My husband was now being bombarded with tomatoes by my sister, her husband, and my in-laws. Amidst his panic screams and flailing, his affair partner, curious about the commotion, appeared in the garden. Without hesitation, she too became a target for the tomatoes. Attempting to flee back inside, she was forcefully pulled back out by my sister and ended up running alongside my husband in the garden. I overheard everything while on the phone from the moment my sister and her husband showed up at my husband's place. Every time the walls outside got dirty, my husband would scream sadly, and his affair partner would join in crying and panicking. Eventually, my sister, her husband, and my in-laws threw all the tomatoes they had brought. By then, the two of them had calmed down completely. They were then walked to my parents' house nearby. Even though I can never forgive what my husband and his lover did, hearing my husband's pitiful voice and the lover's cries made me feel a bit better. It was almost funny to see them both so desperate, apologizing to me. My sister's husband came up with this plan. After my daughter left the hospital, I began to doubt my husband's behavior during her stay. I decided to set up the baby monitor we used when she was little in our bedroom. I suspected that if my sister's husband was right, my husband might have been bringing his lover to our house while our daughter and I were away. I was anxious that the hidden baby monitor concealed near a houseplant, would be discovered at any moment. Fortunately, neither my husband nor his lover found it, and it captured everything they did. Since the day my daughter was in the hospital, it seemed like my husband was living with his lover at our house part-time. Each time I returned home, I saved the recorded footage as proof. After my daughter left the hospital and I confirmed my husband's affair, I confided in my sister and her husband about the video evidence and sought their advice on what to do next. They suggested involving my in-laws first. My in-laws live about a 30-minute drive away and are usually calm people, unlike my husband who often gets angry. So with my sister and her husband, I took the evidence to my in-laws' house. At first, they found it hard to believe that their son could cheat. However, when we showed them the footage, they saw undeniable proof of my husband being intimate with his lover. They had no choice but to believe me. What's worse, my husband was heard saying hurtful things about our daughter, like how she just makes a mess and isn't cute at all, and that he wanted to throw both her and me out. This revelation made my in-laws furious. They wanted to confront my husband immediately, but my sister, her husband, and I convinced them to hold off for the moment. When my husband found out I knew about the affair, he became defiant. We didn't want to give in to his wishes for a quick divorce, so we discussed with my in-laws how to come up with a fitting punishment. Seeing the evidence on the video, my in-laws were also deeply hurt and immediately agreed to our plan. After brainstorming together, we decided on a unique punishment, throwing tomatoes at him. This idea came from my sister's husband, who had studied in Spain and was inspired by the tomato festival there. We thought it would be satisfying because my husband really dislikes getting dirty, and throwing tomatoes wouldn't cause any harm. It was also convenient timing since my sister's husband's relatives, who are farmers, had an excess of tomatoes that were going to be discarded. Initially, I was taken aback by the unusual idea, but I soon realized that simply throwing tomatoes wouldn't suffice. I felt my husband deserved to experience some discomfort from being hit by tomatoes, so I agreed to the plan. My sister, her husband, and my in-laws were all set to carry it out. I wanted to join in throwing tomatoes at my husband as well, but I was still concerned about my daughter's well-being and couldn't leave my parents' house. Additionally, my sister and her husband felt guilty for introducing me to my husband, and my in-laws felt responsible for how they raised their son. So it was decided that the four of them would proceed with the plan without me. I made sure they promised to do it outside the house, not inside. Despite my disappointment at not being able to throw tomatoes myself, witnessing my husband and his lover in such a pitiful state, thanks to my family, was oddly satisfying. I had already informed my parents about my husband's affair, so when they were brought to my parents' house, they were visibly uneasy. I threw the divorce papers at my husband without looking him in the eye and said firmly, "Let's get divorced. I have all the evidence of your affair. You'll also need to pay child support." Upon hearing the mention of child support, the lover reacted with disbelief. It seemed she had been imagining marrying my husband, becoming a housewife, and living comfortably. Realizing that child support payments could burden her financially, she began denying any involvement, claiming, "I have nothing to do with this man." That's when I mentioned the footage from the baby monitor. At this point, the lover argued that it was an invasion of privacy, and my husband backed her up, threatening legal action against me. However, my in-laws, along with my sister and her husband, scolded them harshly. Still shaken from the tomato incident, both of them fell silent quickly. When I reiterated to my husband that he needed to agree to the divorce, he reluctantly began to complain. "I've been supporting you all this time, and as a housewife, you should obey your husband. You can't even clean properly. You were a useless wife. It's only natural that I cheated on you," my husband sarcastically remarked, mocking the idea of a part-time working mother being able to support herself. However, there was a reason why I decided to return to my parents' house this time. It wasn't just because my parents and my sister and her husband welcomed me back, but also because I was offered a full-time position at my part-time job. When I informed my husband about this opportunity, he clicked his tongue in frustration. That's when I made it clear to him that my daughter and I would never return to that house again. Predictably, my husband started complaining about who would clean the walls of the house. But ultimately, it was his infidelity that caused all of this, and he was entirely at fault. When he demanded that I pay for cleaning the exterior, my in-laws had had enough. They disowned him right then and there for bringing up such trivial matters at this point. After being disowned by my in-laws, my husband unexpectedly proposed to his mistress. Covered in tomato and feeling humiliated, she had lost all affection for him, and the idea of paying child support added to her rejection. She bluntly told my husband, "I'm not interested in a man without money," leaving him stunned. Under our stern gazes, my husband reluctantly agreed to our divorce. We informed them that we would continue discussions through our lawyers, and then we sent my husband and his mistress away. I'm not sure what they discussed on their way back, but apparently, they ended up angrily arguing and parted ways, cursing each other out. Afterwards, my husband ended up living alone in our house, struggling to manage the mortgage and child support payments on his own. He tried seeking help from his brother, but was coldly turned away and cut off from his family. Now he had no one left to rely on. Meanwhile, the mistress faced repercussions from the rumors about her relationship with my husband. She ended up quitting her job, and when her affair was discovered by her parents, they disowned her just like my husband's family did to him. She was kicked out of her parents' home and now lives in a cheap, run-down apartment. During the day, she works part-time, and at night, she works in a nightclub to make ends meet. My sister once spotted the mistress working at a store's register and remarked how much weight she had lost and how aged she looked, despite being in her early 20s. It's heartbreaking to think about how a single mistake could dramatically alter someone's life and rob them of so many potential happy moments. As for me, I've started working full-time with the support of my parents, sister, and her husband, who welcome me back to their home. It's challenging at times, but I'm beginning to feel a sense of achievement as I take on more responsibilities at work. My daughter has settled into living with my parents and is thriving each day. When we lived with my husband, she struggled to get along with adult men, likely due to his yelling. Now, she's gradually overcoming that thanks to the kindness shown by my sister's husband and my father. Surrounded by a caring family, my daughter and I are now enjoying a peaceful and happy life. I find solace in the understanding I share with my daughter-in-law. Following my husband's funeral, my mother-in-law, blissfully ignorant, bid me farewell with a radiant smile as she drove me away. However, the next day, panic painted her face when she visited my parents' house where I sought refuge. It was clear her scheme to secure my husband's inheritance had hit a snag. In that moment, the true gravity of ignorance struck me. My name is Emily. I'm 39, married to John, who is 2 years my junior. We have a daughter, Rose, in first grade. Living with my mother-in-law began a year ago after my father-in-law's passing. Concerned about her solitude in their spacious home, I agreed to the cohabitation. Initially, we split living expenses, offering some relief. Yet, unexpected challenges emerged as my mother-in-law started criticizing me for sharing household chores with my husband. She disapproved, asserting that it was unfit for the head of the family to engage in such tasks. Despite my role as the primary breadwinner due to a 2-year age gap with my husband, my mother-in-law remained oblivious to this fact. Frustrated, I pleaded with my husband to enlighten her about our financial dynamics, hoping to resume our shared responsibilities. However, he hesitated, revealing his reluctance to take on additional chores. Disappointed, I realized a new facet of my husband's character. Eventually, labeled a failure as a wife, I found myself shouldering all household duties alone, while my mother-in-law, a full-time housewife, remained oblivious to the imbalance. It's almost comical that she isn't fulfilling her role as a housewife, considering she should be sharing the household chores. With my husband now liberated from domestic duties, he started venturing out alone on his days off, donning casual attire despite claiming to be at work. Skepticism gnawed at me, questioning the authenticity of his purported work engagements. Moreover, on weekends, he began frequently checking his smartphone, leaving me curious about what captivated his attention. Despite my interest, he guarded his phone closely, leaving no opportunity for me to investigate. His supposed overtime hours were also inconsistent. He often returned home around the usual time or just an hour later. While suspicions of infidelity lingered, observing his routine on weekdays made me question the validity of such thoughts. A few months later, anomalies in my husband's behavior became more apparent. He had been consistent in contributing his share of living expenses, but now, instead of the customary $670, he was depositing only $600 or sometimes even $540. Perplexed, I confronted him about the financial shortfall, emphasizing my strict principles regarding money matters. With many years of marriage behind us, I expected a straightforward explanation. He nonchalantly attributed it to the company's poor performance, claiming a temporary reduction in his salary, making it challenging to meet the usual contribution. Doubtful, I pressed further, questioning whether financial cutbacks were a guise for unfaithfulness. Surprised, he vehemently denied any such betrayal, citing the presence of our family as a deterrent. While his response seemed sincere, the mystery of his weekend escapades lingered. Frustrated by the lack of clarity, I contemplated hiring a detective agency to unveil the truth. However, before I could take that step, a significant event unfolded a few days later during his work. A call from an unfamiliar number shattered the tranquility of my day. It turned out to be my husband's boss. The voice on the other end, the embodiment of concern, disclosed a distressing truth. John, my husband, had been in a traffic accident during a business errand and his life hung in the balance. The gravity of those words plunged my mind into chaos. The notion of danger to his life left me momentarily paralyzed, but soon reality snapped back. I promptly informed my boss, set aside any ongoing tasks, and rushed to the hospital, fervently wishing for his survival. Upon reaching the hospital, the devastating news awaited me. My husband had succumbed to the impact of a car collision while waiting for a green light at an intersection. Attempting to evade another vehicle that ran a red light, he stood no chance against the force of the collision. His instant demise left me grappling with an overwhelming torrent of responsibilities. Last year, I had experienced the rituals of wake and funeral preparations with the passing of my father-in-law. But then, I had my husband by my side. Now, I faced the daunting task alone. My grief-stricken mother-in-law, lost in a daze, proved incapable of offering assistance. She occasionally wandered away, seemingly seeking solace in places steeped in memories of my husband. The shock of losing both husband and son in rapid succession left her incapacitated. In the face of this tragedy, I resolved to be strong. I had to not only navigate the funeral arrangements but also prepare my daughter Rose for a future without her father. Breaking the news to Rose was an agonizing task. I explained that her father had been involved in a fatal car accident, leaving only the two of us to face the world together. Despite the uncertainty of her understanding, I felt compelled to share this harsh reality with her. As we progressed through the wake, the day of the funeral arrived, ushering in a new wave of emotions. The tension mounted, and I found myself unable to contain the flood of tears. My mother-in-law, seemingly concerned about my emotional state, approached me and uttered something utterly unbelievable. In the midst of my mourning, she callously suggested that since there was no blood relation, I should refrain from claiming John's inheritance and simply depart, leaving Rose behind. She even went so far as to question Rose's worth as my daughter, proposing that I take her when I leave. Her laughter accompanying these heartless words added an extra layer of shock. Struggling to comprehend such cruelty amid my grief, I decided to maintain composure until the funeral concluded and distance myself from my mother-in-law's callous remarks. Her smirking face lingered in my memory, fueling a desire for some form of retribution. Post-funeral, I meticulously prepared to depart, packing only the essentials for Rose and me. I approached my mother-in-law and declared my renouncement of any claim to John's inheritance, offering it to her without hesitation. Her face lit up with joy at the prospect, expressing relief and gratitude for my supposed understanding. She eagerly agreed, seemingly content with the arrangement, and happily retreated to her room, signaling the end of our association. As we left the house, I couldn't fathom the newfound happiness she exuded. Despite our initial decision to live together due to her loneliness, she now appeared content with our departure. The reasons for her joy remained elusive to me. Upon reaching my parents' house, I recounted the entire ordeal to my father, who was understandably outraged. He condemned my mother-in-law's actions, deeming her concern for inheritance immediately after John's death despicable. Concerned about our financial stability without the inheritance, my father pondered our future. However, I assured him that we would manage without it, having handled expenses on my salary alone for the past month or two. Expressing his concern for Rose's future and the importance of saving, my father generously offered us a place to live. Grateful, I accepted his kindness. Regarding my husband's inheritance, I revealed a document to my father that had recently arrived from my in-laws' house. A report titled John's Conduct Investigation. It contained shocking revelations about my husband's true nature. As I spent time at my parents' house on John's bereavement leave, contemplating our next steps, the doorbell incessantly rang. Irritated by the persistent ringing, I opened the door to find my mother-in-law looking pale and agitated. Confused by her sudden change in demeanor, I responded through the intercom, urging her to stop shouting. Her outburst about my knowledge of John's substantial debt disturbed the neighbors. Reluctantly, she acquiesced to a quieter conversation, but her unexpected visit begged the question. What did she want after proclaiming just the day before that we should no longer be in contact? I responded with cold detachment, stating that it concerned John's inheritance and suggested continuing the conversation inside. However, my mother intervened, adamantly refusing entry to someone who had callously told my grieving daughter to leave during a funeral. Concerned about shielding Rose from the discussion, I concurred with my mother's decision. Unyielding, my mother-in-law insisted on finding an alternative, leading us to agree to talk at a nearby cafe. Once at the restaurant, my mother-in-law wasted no time delving into the discussion. She accused me of leaving the house easily because I knew John was drowning in debt. I confirmed her suspicion, citing John's weekend work claims, perpetual smartphone proximity, and his sudden halt in contributing to living expenses as red flags. To clarify, I hired a detective agency that revealed his gambling addiction and mounting debts, information I learned just 2 days prior. Addressing her concern about my tears at the funeral, I admitted genuine sorrow for the loss but acknowledged that, considering everything, leaving was the right decision. Intrigued, she questioned the total amount of John's debt. Startled, I revealed a demand letter I received that day, a staggering $6,700, contributing to a grand total of $33,700 in debt. I warned her that unless she renounced the inheritance, she'd be burdened with the entire sum. Dismayed by the revelation, my mother-in-law stuttered, confessing that the inheritance from her husband was already spent, $13,500 on luxury items, anticipating John's inheritance. This expenditure explained her post-funeral shopping sprees. Realizing her financial recklessness, I acknowledged my inability to assist with her debt and urged her to handle the renunciation herself. I left, and in subsequent events, she managed to renounce John's negative inheritance, but the $13,500 debt remained. Attempts to seek help from relatives failed due to the rumors of her actions on the day of the funeral. In contrast, life for Rose and me took a positive turn. Despite Rose transferring schools, she embraced her new environment energetically. Living with my parents allowed me to focus on work, providing a stable income. We now spend quality weekends together, exploring shopping malls, visiting theme parks, and enjoying activities we couldn't during John's lifetime. Supported by my loving parents, our days are filled with smiles, and I am determined to sustain this newfound happiness.
My name is Mia. I'm 24 years old and work full-time. I've been dating a guy at work who's a year older than me for 3 years now, and we've decided to get married. In public, my mom behaved very differently. It happened when my boyfriend was around. I was prepared for her to say something mean to him, but she surprised me by being kind. The reason behind her behavior was that my boyfriend's dad held a high position in a big company, and my boyfriend was going to join that company after gaining more experience at his current job. My mom was thinking about the future and wanted to improve her image now so she could get help later on. Because my boyfriend believed my mom's act completely, I couldn't talk to him about what my mom was really like. My sister has always treated me like I'm beneath her. She would make fun of me, pointing out how differently our parents treated us. I have an older sister who's 3 years older than me. She's already married and lives away from our family home. I still live with our parents. My mom especially favors my sister a lot, which has always been clear to me. Even though my dad also seems to prefer my sister, he does care about me too, which is reassuring. I've been eager to move out of my parents' house and live with my boyfriend, but my mom won't let me for some reason. Even though my sister moved out to live with her husband before they got married, I can't understand why I'm not allowed to do the same. I think part of it is because my mom wants me around to help out at home, but part of it feels like she's being unfair. In public, my mom behaved very differently. It happened when my boyfriend was around. I was prepared for her to say something mean to him, but she surprised me by being kind. The reason behind her behavior was that my boyfriend's dad held a high position in a big company, and my boyfriend was going to join that company after gaining more experience at his current job. My mom was thinking about the future and wanted to improve her image now so she could get help later on. Because my boyfriend believed my mom's act completely, I couldn't talk to him about what my mom was really like. My sister has always treated me like I'm beneath her. She would make fun of me, pointing out how differently our parents treated us. I was fed up with my older sister who always acted like she was better than me, even though she's just 4 years older. She married a guy who's 2 years older than her and works for a well-known company, earning a good salary. She never let me forget it. But once she found out my boyfriend would soon work for his dad, an executive at a big company, she stopped bragging about her husband. My sister used to visit our parents almost every weekday. I'm not sure what she did with our stay-at-home mom, but when I got home from work, she'd look at me with pity and wouldn't offer any comfort. I work too, so I managed to save a bit of money each month for my future. It's not much, but it adds up. My sister, on the other hand, doesn't need to work because her husband earns enough. She's proud of their lifestyle, even though she didn't earn that money herself. "Have you saved any money for your future?" she asked me once. "Well, sort of. I have some in a bank account," I replied. "I withdrew it once for wedding expenses and it's safe for now. We're also saving for the wedding, so I'm doing some calculations." "I see," my mom remarked. "There was money in the safe." "Yes, temporarily," I said. I wondered why she was asking, but it turned out to cause a big argument later on. The expenses for our wedding were supposed to be shared by both families, but since his parents were more enthusiastic about the ceremony, they agreed to cover a larger portion. We decided to handle the down payment ourselves. When my sister got married, her in-laws also contributed significantly, which was a relief for our modest family. About a month later, as usual, my sister stormed into our family home. However, what caught my attention this time was her car. The car was parked proudly, almost flaunting itself. It was a popular model. I assumed she had bought it with her husband's money, but this time it was different. "Mia, have you seen my car?" "Huh? Your car?" I hadn't noticed." "That's good. Mom bought it for me." I was quite surprised. I couldn't help but wonder where the money came from. It wasn't a luxury car, but it was a new model worth nearly $30,000. I was astonished by how much my family favored my sister, even buying her a car. It was shocking. "You must be happy about this, right? Don't forget to thank Mia." "What? Why should she thank me?" I was completely baffled by what Mom was saying, but they both gave me a sly smile. "That's right. We used your money to buy it." "Huh? Thanks a lot, Mia." I didn't understand what they were talking about, and I felt confused. "The $30,000 in the safe, we used it to buy your sister's car. That was supposed to be your wedding fund, but it's okay, right? We're family," Mom said, giving me a mean grin. "But that wasn't my money. It wasn't even for my wedding." "Huh?" Mom's expression turned serious instantly. Thinking back on it now, it almost makes me laugh. My sister beside me was also surprised. I had already managed my money and returned it to my bank account. I hadn't even saved up to $30,000. But for some reason Mom was looking at me skeptically. Dad mentioned he hadn't withdrawn the wedding expenses yet. So isn't that different money in the safe? As we looked at each other, Mom and my sister seemed to be trying to piece together what they knew about whose money it was. "I can't confirm whose it is," I said, but Mom thought I was bluffing and smirked at my uncertainty. I had seen an envelope marked $30,000 when I borrowed the safe from Dad before, so it's definitely not my money. "Anyway," they said, "we're grateful to you, Mia. Take good care of the car. It's wrong to lay hands on someone else's money without permission." They both misunderstood things and just let the conversation drop, but Mom will regret this big mistake she made. My sister drove home in her new car and Mom went out shopping. I was left alone in the living room, feeling more and more eager to leave this house as soon as possible. Looking back, neither my mother nor my sister ever congratulated me on my upcoming marriage. Mom made a big deal out of my sister's wedding, celebrating joyfully when she heard the news. Meanwhile, both my sister and Mom practically pressured me into giving a $1,000 gift. Mom was thrilled and closely followed the details of my sister's wedding, eagerly looking at photos of the venue. However, when it came to my wedding, which was planned to be much more modest and affordable compared to my sister's lavish affair, she clearly showed her disappointment and gave me a cold response. Regardless, even before my sister got married, I had to endure constant bragging about her husband's income, looks, and personality. Information I never asked for kept coming my way. She would say things like, "Honestly, I doubt you'll ever find someone as amazing as my guy." It's the kind of thing a sister should never say to her younger sibling. I focused on my work, hoping to one day look back on my tough life at my parents' house and how I met my current boyfriend. He's a high achiever at our workplace, where we both work. As I mentioned earlier, he's soon moving to a major corporation where his father is an executive. Our current job is subcontracted by his father's company, so we earn a decent income. Initially, the company was discussing how much my boyfriend would transfer to his father's company after gaining experience at our current workplace. Supporting my boyfriend's growth and ensuring a smooth transition would benefit our business relationship with clients. When my sister first found out that my boyfriend worked at the same company as me, she made a rude comment, saying, "He's just like you." However, after I explained his future prospects, she went quiet. It might be because the company he's moving to is even bigger than my brother-in-law's company. My sister's patronizing attitude hasn't changed since we were kids. Our parents always favored her, buying her any toy she wanted without question. My dad, feeling sorry for me, would spend time playing with me. But my sister, who's good at pleasing others, sometimes manipulated him to keep us apart. I really dislike my sister. She's outgoing and talks energetically, whereas I'm not exactly introverted, but I'm quiet and often felt pressured to cater to my sister's preferences. From my mom's perspective, I always seem dissatisfied. While that perception isn't entirely wrong, I believe my mother misunderstands my true character. A week after my sister flaunted her new car, she came home as usual, and both she and my mother were relaxing in the living room while I stayed in my room. Suddenly, the door to my father's room next to mine swung open, and I heard him hurrying down the stairs. I could hear my father raising his voice, so I went downstairs to see what was happening. He was questioning my mother and sister alternately. It was there. I'm sure it wasn't there. No, really? In what form? In an envelope? Hey Mia, have you been in the safe lately? I only took out some money when you asked me to. My sister was clearly flustered and kept glancing outside, towards her new car. Mia, do you know anything about this? My mother looked at me with a shocked expression. Her face seemed to say, "Don't say a word, Mom and Sis already know more about this." Wait, hold on, what are you implying? I have nothing to do with this. What are you talking about? Despite them revealing the source and use of the money to me, I was shocked by their audacity to pretend they didn't know. And that car, I pointed at my sister's new car. Tell me Mom didn't buy that for you as a gift, right? My mother's face went pale, and my sister looked like she wanted to disappear. It was the first time I'd seen such expressions on their faces. That envelope is Mia's money, isn't it? I asked. But Mia just said she took it out of the safe. So whose money is it, if not Mia's? She's been saving it. I haven't withdrawn it yet. What's going on? Even if it's Mia's, you used it without permission. My mom kept stealing glances at my sister, who avoided eye contact. This is typical of my sister's behavior. Mom must be shocked because that money was supposed to be for renovating the house to make it accessible for our parents. I knew Mom had been urging Dad to let her mother live with us. She wanted to care for our grandmother, who had become frail after losing our grandfather a few years ago. While Dad's parents were well supported by nearby siblings, Mom had no siblings and her mother lived alone, so she hoped her mother could move in with us. We were even planning to make our home accessible to accommodate her. My parents believed that preparing the house now would be beneficial as they grew older. The $30,000 was specifically set aside for this purpose. My mother had mistaken it for my savings. Now what are we going to do? You knew we needed that money to make the house accessible, right? We've already signed the contract, and construction starts next month. What's the plan now? Dad's angry questions overwhelmed Mom, leaving her tearful. My sister remained indifferent as usual. We'll have to cancel the renovations, Mom whispered sadly. No, absolutely not. Then Grandma can't move in. You need to talk to your parents. Can't we find another solution? Dad slammed his hand on the table, raising his voice. This is no joke. You need to figure this out. The only option left is to sell the car. Wait a minute, selling the car isn't an option. Can't we find another way, maybe borrow from another source? Please, help us. I can't face my husband with this, pleaded Mom, now at odds with my sister after being so united in pressuring me earlier. Dad watched them with disbelief. Mom, realizing the gravity of her irreversible actions, was in dire straits, her plans to care for her parents now shattered. My sister attempted to play innocent with Dad, but he wasn't buying it this time. It was clear the new car parked outside was bought with the money from our safe, and Dad was growing tired of her attempts to avoid responsibility. But you agreed to Grandma moving in. You promised to take care of Mom. Why the sudden change? Dad's frustration grew. Your parents are fine, with siblings nearby. My mom is alone, with no one close by. It was true. Mom's family lived out of state, far away, but now she was reacting out of desperation. Dad became even angrier, and a heated argument erupted, fueled by the financial betrayal. Blame was unfairly falling on Dad. Seeing my sister try to slip away, I quietly moved the car keys to Dad's side, preventing her escape. If you're insisting on Grandma moving in, then take responsibility for it. What you did is no different from theft, I asserted firmly. Mom looked down, appearing resigned. Dad clarified that the money Mom used for the car was from the safe, and my sister was equally responsible. This angered my sister. Dad, you've always been too forgiving of her, I said, my expression stern. Don't you think it's unfair? Even Mom misunderstood. It's clear Dad is troubled by my sister, who never seems to learn. She's stubbornly defensive, especially when it comes to me. Just because it's my money doesn't give you the right to use it. I'm not the villain here. And what's with Mia marrying a man with a bright future? He's just benefiting from our parents' connections. I've always endured how my sister treated me, but this time, I couldn't take it anymore. Isn't it strange how your husband's family spoils him like that? I don't need lectures from someone as spoiled and naive as you. Even Mom, Dad, and my sister were taken aback by my outburst of anger. Who are you calling naive and disgusting? I'm talking to you, the one who doesn't appreciate Mom, who bought you a car, and only cares about herself. My frustration peaked, causing my sister to step back. By the way, my boyfriend's father is the executive at your husband's main client. I proposed a solution to Dad. At first he was surprised, but since it came from me, he, considering me the victim, accepted it. A week later, Mom announced she was giving up on the idea of living together. But Dad intervened. You have $10,000 in your account, right? Take it all out. With that, Dad retrieved the blueprint and cost estimate for the construction. The initial estimate was $30,000, but by opting for less expensive plumbing fixtures, it could be reduced to $25,000. Mom listened quietly to Dad's explanation, nodding in agreement. I can manage $10,000, which leaves enough for Maya's wedding, but I can't cover more than that. We're still $5,000 short, Mom admitted, sounding resigned as she looked down. The remaining $5,000 will have to come from Mia, Dad stated firmly. What? Grandma's situation shouldn't be blamed, and Mom would be in trouble, right? This money is my safety net, saved up in case of emergencies. Mom covered her face with both hands, tears streaming down as she nodded. Go ahead with it, Dad, I said. Are you sure about this? Dad asked, seeking confirmation. I nodded in agreement. Mom continued to bow her head, expressing her gratitude. I've been cold to Mia all this time, causing her discomfort. I thought it was justified to use her money because it was hers, despite my behavior, and yet, she sobbed, taking my hand. I'm really sorry. Thank you so much. In return, make sure you celebrate my wedding properly, as any mother should. After making some adjustments to the construction plan, the work began on schedule. The renovations went smoothly, and it was decided that my grandmother would soon move in with us. As for my sister, she didn't visit our parents' house for a while, but apparently she did apologize to them. While she didn't apologize directly to me, it seems she acknowledged her mistakes. Mom completely changed her attitude towards me, interacting in a much kinder manner. Perhaps it's because of the money and her feelings of remorse. As planned, my wedding went ahead smoothly. Both Mom and Dad appeared genuinely happy. Meanwhile, my sister's husband was busy ingratiating himself with my fiance's father, bowing respectfully and serving him drinks. It was quite a sight to see my sister's surprised expression when she realized my earlier concerns were true. With that, our family's major issue was resolved, and it seemed to bring closure to the challenges in my life as well. Interestingly, during the wedding, when a picture of my sister lovingly doting on me as a baby was projected, it seemed my sister quietly shed a few tears.